January 17th, Pokrovsk direction, 8 am. A Leopard 2A6, Germany's pride, NATO's technological showcase, sits burning on the battlefield. But the crew isn't dead. They're prisoners. And when Russian officers checked their papers, everything changed. A German senior lieutenant, a Polish sergeant, a British corporal, not volunteers, not mercenaries, active-duty NATO personnel. The West just got caught red-handed. Welcome to Narodny Obozrevadel, where we break down the operations reshaping the conflict. What you're about to witness isn't speculation. This is documented evidence that has Western capitals in full panic mode. Hit like, subscribe, and buckle up, because this changes everything. Early morning battlefield sounds. Distant engine rumbles. The morning of January 17th began like any other combat day on the Pokrovsk axis. Russian tank units, 10 T-90M Proriev tanks supported by motorized infantry and BMP fighting vehicles, were advancing toward Grishin. Standard operation. Expected resistance. Routine engagement.
Reconnaissance footage atmosphere.
At approximately 3 kilometers distance, thermal imaging picked up enemy armor. Among the Ukrainian machines, 2 Western tanks. Leopard 2A6s. The myth was about to meet reality. The battle opened at long range. Precision fire from Russian tanks. The invincibility of Western technology began to crumble in real time. One precise shot. 2,000 meters. Despite its vaunted armor, the Leopard 2A6 wasn't invulnerable. The round penetrated the engine transmission compartment. Fire erupted. Mobility, 0. The tank froze in place. In seconds, the entire image of Western armor changed. The crew, realizing their situation was hopeless, attempted evacuation. Hatches opened. But Russian infantry on BMPs moved with surgical precision. Within seconds, the disabled tank was surrounded. 3 tankers surrendered without resistance. No execution, no kill shots, maximum precision, maximum discipline.
Powerful transition.
This wasn't just a local success. This was the symbolic defeat of Western technology in actual combat. But the truly incredible discovery came in the rear. Shuffling, stamping sounds. After capturing the disabled Leopard, detailed document verification began. Russian officers expected standard Ukrainian passports, Visu military IDs, perhaps Ukrainian bank cards, realization-known builds. The reality shocked everyone. German documents, Polish papers, British identification, all with official stamps. Photographs, military identifiers, delivered with gravity. Tank commander, senior, lieutenant, Bundeswehr. Gunner, Polish sergeant. Driver mechanic, British corporal. All 3 active-duty military personnel deployed for combat operations in Ukraine. Not volunteers, not mercenaries. Till effects inventory. Personal items told the rest of the story. Bank cards from European institutions, military service records, notes in native languages, family photographs. Before Russian forces stood not simple foreigners, but members of NATO's military structure. A strategic realization. The scale of understanding was shocking. This wasn't a local incident. This was proof of direct alliance participation in combat operations against Russia.
Angle implication zone.
Legally, the situation transforms fundamentally. Direct participation by active-duty military personnel makes NATO a potential party to the conflict, opens new possibilities for Russia under international law. Every detail of the crew and their documents was meticulously recorded on video. Interrogation footage, document photographs, personal items cataloged, instantly became subject of international attention. The moment became a symbol, leopards caught by the Russian bear. Technology considered invincible. Western military personnel now prisoners. And in European capitals, panic began, panic phone calls, emergency meetings atmosphere. In the first hours after NATO tankers' capture was made public, Western capitals rushed into panic denial. Germany, Poland, Britain all began claiming these were supposedly deserters who had left their countries without authorization. Checking formation official statement tone. "We are verifying the information," they declared, hoping this would pass as plausible explanation. But this version doesn't withstand even minimal scrutiny. The questions pile up. How could deserters possess active-duty military IDs? Official documents? Bank cards with European stamps? Why were they fully equipped in military uniforms without even identification markers if they'd supposedly gone AWOL? No answers. And every refusal to acknowledge facts only intensified pressure. Violence emphasized. NATO's silence was an even louder signal. The alliance, despite clear evidence, made not a single official statement. Diplomats restrained emotions, trying not to reveal panic. But externally, it was obvious. The situation spiraled beyond control. This wasn't just diplomatic scandal. This was systemic silence caused by fear of admitting the obvious.
Trump's demand.
Especially when even U.S. President Trump demanded explanations from allies regarding NATO's covert actions on Ukrainian territory. Russian perspective. For Russia, this wasn't just scandal. This was a legal turning point that could fundamentally change the war's status and open new possibilities for legal claims. Transition to implications. But the capture of 3 active NATO tankers means something far larger than embarrassment. International law documentation sounds. Courtroom atmosphere. The capture of 3 active NATO tankers isn't just sensational. It's irrefutable proof of NATO's direct participation in combat operations against Russia. Their military IDs, passports, documents, personal effects, all confirm these aren't volunteers, not mercenaries. Active duty servicemen officially deployed for warfare. Legal analysis tone. From an international law perspective, this radically changes the conflict status. If previously Russia formally fought Ukraine, now there exists legal basis to consider NATO as a party to the war. Tej implication. This explains the alliance's panic silence and Western governments' attempts to deny the obvious. Article 5 discussion. What's even more important, Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty. The principle of collective defense may not activate if an alliance member independently deployed its active soldiers to foreign territory without coordination with allies. Vulnerability. This opens an entirely new level of risk for NATO bases, logistics centers, and facilities. Any attempt to support Ukrainian units now becomes a legitimate military target. Escalation ladder. Russian military can consider NATO infrastructure and bases directly connected to actions against Russia as lawful targets for strikes. First consequences. Initial consequences already being felt. Western capitals paralyzed by realization that their covert operations can be legally exposed with real consequences. Sexkow strategy. And this is why Moscow decided not to rush. Carefully collecting evidence. Building legal foundation. Preparing public exposure. Sexkow raise. Now stakes increased exponentially. And there's no going back. Strategic atmosphere, strategic thinking sounds. Russia understands this situation requires strategic approach. The prisoners are alive. Interrogations continue. But Moscow decides not to hurry. All evidence and materials being provided in measured doses, one after another, like a confident game of raising stakes. Details about NATO's direct participation in the Ukrainian conflict begin spreading. But for Russia, maintaining pressure on the West is more important.
Formation warfare.
Publication of evidence becomes a kind of strategic map where every step is weighed. Every word is a weapon, Exchange leverage. Russia isn't rushing prisoner exchanges. And this is the key moment. Why? Because now Moscow possesses a card that can overturn the entire negotiation process. Behind the scenes, attempts to negotiate become no less important than the actual interrogation content. Europe apparently already began seeking resolution paths, including proposing possible exchanges.
Russian position.
But for Russia, this isn't simply a question of humanity or military ethics. This is a chance to cement political victory and intensify pressure on NATO. Prisoner exchange, like any other agreement, must occur on Moscow's terms. This is no longer tank warfare. This is a war of nerves. Russia demonstrates strategic superiority, takes a pause, maximizes pressure on opponents. And here the main question emerges. What's next? Can the West save face without acknowledging NATO's obvious participation in the conflict? Or will Moscow exploit this opportunity to the fullest? Atmosphere, curtain pulling back. Now the West can no longer pretend not to understand what's happening. Now it's serious. Adult-level warfare. Everything hidden under the mask of proxy war and cover operations surfaced. The Leopard became a symbol of exposure, not just of military equipment, but exposure on the global stage of what NATO truly does behind the scenes. This tank, symbol of modern military might, wasn't just destroyed. It was captured alive, with a crew that couldn't hide.
Powerful.
This is a powerful message to everyone. The rules have changed. Shushan demonstration. Russia demonstrated this isn't simply military conflict. This is new perception of global warfare. The world system will never be the same. No more games with distance. Plural expression with impact. The smell of something burning. And this is only the beginning. Moscow's declaration. Moscow declared there will be no hidden agreements, no covered operations. The entire picture became clear. Now everything decided at the level of most rigid and transparent conclusions. Western realization. The West realized it played with fire. And now consequences may be far more serious than just political scandals. Tablet of atmosphere. Battlefield aftermath sounds fading. January 17th, 8 a.m. 1 disabled tank. 3 prisoners. A handful of documents. But these simple facts triggered something far larger than a battlefield victory. For decades, the West operated under a comfortable assumption. Involvement without accountability, influence without exposure, power projection without consequences.
Shattered.
The Leopard 2A6 represented more than advanced engineering and composite armor. It represented invulnerability. The belief that Western technology and personnel could operate with impunity anywhere on the globe.
Reality check.
That belief burned along with the tank's engine compartment. Those military IDs, those bank cards, those family photographs, they're not just evidence. They're the death certificate of plausible deniability. The capture transformed this from a regional conflict into a legal and diplomatic crisis of global proportions. Article 5 questioned. Command structures exposed. Infrastructure vulnerable. Moscow's strategic pause isn't mercy. It's calculation. Every hour those prisoners remain under Russian custody, pressure builds in Western capitals. Every new document released shifts the negotiating table further in Russia's favor. The new reality. This is modern warfare, not decided by who controls territory, but by who controls the narrative. Who possesses irrefutable proof? Who holds the cards that cannot be denied? And the precedent is now set. If active NATO personnel were deployed once, how many more times? How many other training missions are actually combat operations? How many advisors are actually combatants? Hanel thought. The leopard met the bear. And the encounter exposed a truth the West desperately wanted hidden. There are no proxies in this war anymore, only participants. The question isn't whether NATO is involved. The question is, what happens now that everyone knows? So here's what I want to hear from you. Should Russia use this leverage immediately in negotiations? Push for maximum advantage while the evidence is fresh? Or should Moscow hold this card, let the pressure build, and wait for an even bigger concession? Strategic patience versus immediate gains. What's your call? Drop your analysis in the comments below. Genuinely curious to hear different perspectives on this. To new subscribers, welcome to the most important conversations happening right now. To longtime viewers, your continued engagement means everything. This is Narodny Obozrebitel. Stay informed, stay critical, stay ahead. We'll see you in the next one.